So let's briefly see what the answers are. So the first question that was given to you was, why do you need corporate governance in your company? Explain in brief. So the reason that you need corporate governance mainly is to have a proper direction. To have a mechanism for direction and control, you need to have corporate governance. But that you can elaborate it as improve company performance, sustainability, in the sense long-term performance. If you have bad practices inside the company, bad governance per se, then you will end up with corporate collapses. So you can write as to reduce corporate collapses, to improve company performance, and another one would be access to external financing, in the sense if the message for the outside investors are given as the company is having good governance practices, then it's probable that you would be able to get access to external funds easily as well as at a lower cost. So all these answers are very subjective. You can think answers, innovative answers and write, but the question is telling you to explain in brief. So here I have put down the answers in point form. So in the exam, if a question was something like this, explain in brief, and you have put the answers in a point form as I have done, then you would get half of the marks. So you need to explain it. You can write down the point here and you have to elaborate it on more detail, maybe with an example. So I'm quickly just reading through the answers. Second one was, corporate governance is different from general management. Do you agree? Briefly explain. For this, can I have an answer? Corporate governance is different from general management. Do you agree? If so, explain briefly. Yes, management is running the business and corporate governance, or the board is ensuring that it is run in the right direction. In other sense, management is at the executory end of an organization, whereas the board is on the corporate governance, what it does is giving a proper direction, that is the supervisory role. So in essence, those two are quite different. So you can say you agree. Executive management will be responsible for running the enterprise, but the governing body ensures that it is run in the right direction. So I'll share my answer, but it's not a complete answer. I have put it in a very short form. Executive management, what they does is they run the business, and governance body ensures that it is running in the right direction. If management is about running a business, governance is about seeing that it is run properly. Management කියන්නේ business එක run කරන විදිහ නම්, governance කියලා කියන්නේ ඒක run වෙන විදිහ හරිද කියලා monitor කරන mechanism එකක්. Corporate governance must not be confused with corporate management. Corporate governance focuses on a company's structure and processes to ensure fair, independent, transparent, and accountable corporate behavior, whereas management focuses on operations of the business. This point is very important. Corporate governance is situated at higher level of direction that ensures that the company is managed in the interest of its shareholders. Company is managed in the interest of the shareholders. That answer is anyway you all know. If anyone wants, you can write down the points, but don't write the entire answer, just the most important point, you can write it down. Right? So what was the next question on the practice questions? What are the main issues that corporate governance is trying to address? What are your answers? What are the main issues that corporate governance is trying to address? So the thing that corporate governance is trying to address is, as correctly said, agency problem. That is one answer. So I think I have in the previous slide set given to you all. Align the interest of managers and shareholders. Why? Because of the agency issue. Then prevent managers pursuing their own interest. Prevent high excessive executive pay. Prevent abuse use of power. And appointments, to control the appointments. For that you have nomination committees. Like, so these set of things corporate governance is trying to address, mainly the agency issue, to align the interest of shareholders and the managers, and control abuse use of power, excessive pay. Because if you look at the corporate collapses that have taken place over the years, these things had been the reasons for it. Maybe sometimes it was due to the agency problem. Maybe it was due to excessive pay. Maybe sometimes it was due to abuse use of power. So all these issues, corporate governance codes have taken into account and formulated best practices for the companies to adhere to. In a sense, when you see the corporate collapses that have taken place over the years, what the corporate governance is trying to address is those issues. Today, it has been more formalized in a way that it has been recorded. That's only the difference. Other වෙද්දි corporate governance කියන එක document වෙනවා. ඒ documents වල ඒ code of best practices කියලා අපි මේ මෙච්චර කතා කරන්නේ මේ collapses වලින් වෙච්ච ඒවට හේතු සහ ඒ හේතු වලට උත්තර, to overcome those problems. Those are the best practices. So next question was, briefly explain the 4 pillars of corporate governance. So without the explanation, at least tell me the 4 pillars of corporate governance. So I think the 4 pillars are no difficulty, but here also mentioning just the 4 pillars is not enough. You have to explain a bit, because the question says briefly explain. So accountability is what? Reporting back to the owners, or directors we say are accountable to shareholders. To act, you have to report whatever you did on behalf of them. So the best way of reporting is through using financial statements. Then transparency was, you cannot hide information. That doesn't mean now when it comes to information disclosure wise, you cannot disclose any information, but almost all the information you have to disclose to shareholders if they ask for it. Now, say for instance, if you look at the annual reports, that is also a way of transparency. You are communicating to the shareholders or to the prospective investors about your financial performance. So in the annual report, you won't be putting each and every information on the annual report. You are not putting all the information. But if a particular shareholder wants information more than what is being mentioned in the annual report, board of directors should give those. Because shareholders are the owners, director is just the agent. You cannot hide them. So when you are talking about information, it has to be accurate and it has to be timely and it has to be complete, unbiased information you have to provide. Then fairness, what it meant was you have to treat the shareholders equally or the stakeholders equally. So you have to first identify the interest groups. And the best way of doing that is categorize the stakeholder groups or the shareholder groups and treat the groups within the treat everyone similarly within the particular group. Now, say for instance, if you identify key players in your stakeholders, key players and minor players, your degree of treatment would be different. You would have to keep informed, like you will have to get the active participation of the key players, whereas the minor players you don't have to put that much of an effort, but it has to be fair. Within the key players you cannot discriminate your treatments. It has to be on an equal basis. That is what it meant. Then lastly, you know what is independence means? Simply that is you should be able to get your decision should not be biased and it should not have any influences. So that's why we have independent directors in the company. Independence, to maintain the independence. Your decisions are not being influenced or affected by someone else's. Then the last question was, what are the basic types of board structures in an organization? Which structure is more suitable in terms of corporate governance? So the basic structures you already know. What was it? Unitary board and the dual board. So according to your understanding, which board structure best suits you in terms of good corporate governance, and why do you say so? There are two types of structures, unitary board and dual board. Which structure suits the best and why? Yes, the dual board structure would be the most appropriate one in terms of corporate governance, in terms of practicing good practices. Why? In the dual board, you have two boards, namely the executive board or the board of management and board of directors. So what the role of the board of directors was about the supervisory role. What they do is providing you the direction to run the business. And board of management, they can be responsible in the executive role. That is, they run the business. So the supervision and execution is separated. So it's easy to maintain the so-called independency, transparency, fairness, and even accountability. The four pillars that we mentioned. So when we have a dual board, you will notice that it's very easy to practice those four pillars because execution and the supervision is separated. So with that, I think we can move on to the new lesson. So I'm not giving much time on the practice question that was given to you all to see how the questions are formed. So, but of course in the exam you won't get this much of easy questions. Now these are straightforward, taken from all your slides. It would be a little bit advanced, uh, something for you to think and write, but still the theory, what you learn in the class is essential. So we'll move on to the new lesson. So the lesson today is theoretical aspects of corporate governance. So tell me, before moving on to the lesson, is corporate governance a theory? Does it have theories? My question to you is corporate governance a theory? And if you agree, you can give you the reason why. If not, you should give me the reason why you think it's not a theory. Exactly. So I think some of you all have mentioned it's not a theory. Corporate governance is not a theory. Governance means yaha palan. That is not a theory. However, now, so to formulate good governance practices. Now, for say example, we say a good practice would be to separate the role of chairman and CEO. On what base you think? What was the foundation for that? එහෙම ප්‍රැක්ටිස් එකක් අපි මෙන්න මෙහෙම කරන්න කියලා කියන්නේ මොකක් හරි ෆවුන්ඩේෂන් එකක් තියෙනවා. Experience, by experience also you can formulate good practices. But still, if you look at all these corporate governance codes throughout, you will observe that, you will learn today that all of these codes and practices are evolved based on a foundation of theories, based on some theories. මේ හැම ප්‍රැක්ටිස් එකක් පිටිපස්සෙම කිසියම් හොඳ බේස් එකක් තියෙන theory එකක් තියෙනවා. You give a practice, you have formulated a code, you say good governance based on particular set of theories. However, corporate governance is not a theory. These governance practices are not a theory, but practices are based on particular theories. So we'll see further inside the lecture, inside the slides. So these are the lesson plans. So these are the particular theories that you will learn throughout this lecture series in terms of corporate governance. So you will observe going forward, all of these theories have helped a lot in terms of formulating corporate governance practices. You will see that all these most of these theories are there on the back of all the corporate governance practices that we talk about. Corporate governance කියන එක ඇතුලේ තියෙනවා මෙන්න මේ theories ටික. මේ theories පදනම් වෙලා තමයි මෙන්න මේක subject එකක් විදිහට evolve වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. So you see different aspects. You will have theories that was based on accounting, theories that was based on law, economics, management, organizational behavior, lot of theories. So if we take resource dependency theory, that was a management theory. managerial and class hegemony, psychological and organizational perspectives. These are behavioral theories. Transaction cost economics, stewardship theory, agency theory, those are finance, economic based theories. So you see, corporate governance, you cannot simply say that it's it's a subject that is evolved in the background of finance. You can't say corporate governance is something to do with economics, or you can't say it's something to do with management. No, it has different aspects. Corporate governance is everything in terms of finance, economics, law, management, each and every organizational behavior. Likewise, on this particular subject, you will see you have all these small components that represent different subject areas, different subject areas. So that is further said, you see, development of corporate governance is highly impacted by legal system of the country, culture of the country, ownership behavior, and other structural differences. Mean to say, the legal system, whether we have corporate law, civil law, what the legal systems are, or maybe companies laws, all these laws also impact the development of corporate governance and culture. So I don't know whether I mentioned, culture in Japanese culture is different from the culture that we have in our country, or US culture is different from the culture that we have in our country. For example, in Japan, their culture is, they in the companies focus more on employees welfare rather than its customers. In Japan, they focus more on employees welfare, employees good-being, employees making the employees better. That's why they have employee citizenship. ඒගොල්ලෝගේ එකගේ ප්‍රැක්ටිස් එකක් තමයි, අපි කම්පැනි එකකට ජොයින් වුණාම අපි අපේ ඔකියුපේෂන් එක, ඒ කාලේ අපි රස්සාව කරන කාලේ පුරාවටම ඒ කම්පැනිටම රැඳිලා ඉන්නේ. ඒ කම්පැනි අපි දාලා යන්නේ නැහැ. So that is their practice, employee citizenship, because they serve their employees a lot, they value their employees a lot. That is the Japanese culture. But in Sri Lanka, our focus is customers. So those things affect to the development of corporate governance. Ownership also, some countries, they have a lot of family owned businesses, and some countries they have a lot of public limited companies. So in Sri Lanka, we have most of the time PLCs, listed companies, public companies. Family owned companies, there are very few, but that can differ. You see, now since corporate governance are practices, the practices that you can practice inside a family owned business would be different to the practices that you can practice in a public limited company. Family owned business එක practices උයි public limited company එක practices උයි කියන එක වෙනස්. So when you are developing governance practices, you have to see the ownership structure of the particular country. Country ki ownership structure එක කොහොමද companies වල කියන එක අනුව තමයි අපි ඒක බලන්න. Now another point is, we have a lot of corporate governance codes, US codes, UK code, Germany, Italy, everywhere you have Australia, New Zealand, different codes are there. Any company can adopt any of these codes, but those codes might not suit to our country or another country. Why? Those codes are impacted by that country's society, that country's culture, that country's ownership structure. So those practices you won't be able to practice in another country or in Sri Lanka with 100% accuracy. CDC-ක්ම හරියන විදිහට අපිට ඒ practices මෙතන practice කරන්න බැරි වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So that is why a particular country has their own practices. Sri Lanka has Sri Lankan code of best practices, but would be influenced by many other codes. Now Sri Lankan code would be influenced by the US code, UK code, likewise. So you taking a code as it is and adopting it to another country would not be 100% accurate, because you have certain structural differences. Organizational wise, culture wise, ownership wise, you will see a lot of difference. So I'll be talking about each and every theory. So before that, as I mentioned, determinants of corporate governance level, legal system of the country, existence of capital market, development of capital market. Now we have capital markets. So it could be very frontier, or it could be very, a well-established, a matured market. It can be a very startup market. So based on those markets, developments code has to be formulated. Then UK වල වගේ capital market එකක් ගත්තොත් it's well developed. So you cannot practice all those companies are practicing in that country in us, in here, in our country. It depends. අපේ capital market එක හැදිලා තියෙන්නේ කොහොමද? අපේ investors ලාගේ participation එක කොහොමද? capital market එකේ development එක කොහොමද? ownership structure එක මොන වගේ? So these determinants are mostly the same as what we discussed here, but still, if you list it down, these would be some of the determinants. It can have many. This is a good point. Corporate governance is not a generally accepted theory. It's not a generally accepted theory. I told you, it's not a theory. However, it's a global occurrence. Why global occurrence? It had been there even in the trading, the historical trading, age-old trades. Corporate governance was there. So governance is a global occurrence which had, influenced by many structural differences, cultural differences, legal and ownership differences in countries. It's very complex. Corporate governance is a global occurrence and a complex area because it has many influences. Corporate governance are practices, so practices can be influenced. So as I told you, these practices might be appropriate and relevant to some countries and not for others. What is practiced in UK would be suitable to Sri Lanka and would not be suitable to Sri Lanka because it's been impacted. And also, the relevancy of these practices would differ from time to time. Last year it was suitable, but this year it might not suitable. It depends on the time, the age of your company. If it is a startup, or if it is a matured company, or if it is a falling down or a collapsing company, at what point of your life cycle in the business operation is the level of governance practices change from time to time. What you practiced as a startup would not be suitable when the company has grown to a matured level or when the company is declining. decline වෙන වෙලාවෙ තියෙන corporate governance practices startup එකක් වෙලා තිබ්බ වෙලාවේ practices එකම වගේ වෙන්නේ නැහැ. It would be different from time to time. Would be different from country to country also. Any questions? Any questions from your end? Okay. Now, on the course, the lesson plan, you have the theory of agency theory. So before talking agency theory, first we have to understand what the agency dilemma is. So what is agency dilemma? So I want all to read the first two lines. It was a reference line from Adam Smith, The Wealth of Nations. This, of course, we have talked in the very first lecture as well. The directors of companies, being the managers of other people's money rather than their own, cannot well be expected to watch over it with the same anxious vigilance with which they watch over their own. In the sense, now, if I am the director, if you are the owners, and if you have given the money, given me your money, if you have given me your money to operate the business, since I'm a human being, it's very unlikely that I would take care of that money as similar to the manner that I take care of my own money. උඹලන් විසින් සපයන අරමුදල මම මගේ සල්ලි වගේ පරිස්සම් කරයි කියලා හිතන්න අමාරුයි. So that's not a theory, but that's the practice. That's the human nature. So this is what is called as agency dilemma. So see, this was quoted in 1776 by Adam Smith. So you can see how old these practices are. They have identified this dilemma in that time as well. The owner of wealth contracts with someone else to manage his affairs. So then you have a dilemma where the owner is separated from the agent. You contract with someone else to manage the business. Dilemma is, why it is called dilemma is, you will have different self-interests. So see, if I am the agent or the board of directors, I have a dilemma of choosing between my own interest and my shareholders' interest. මම board of director කෙනෙක් නම් මට කිසියම් ප්‍රශ්නයකට මම මුහුණ දෙනවා මම මගේ self interest එක achieve කර ගන්නවද මම මගේ shareholder ගේ shareholder ගේ interest එක achieve කරනවද. So it's a dilemma. Agency dilemma. I have to make a choice. So when I am making the choice, choices can be conflict. That is what's called agency conflict. Agency dilemma එක කියන්නේ ඒකයි. dilemma එක කියන්නේ මේ agent මුහුණ දෙන්න වෙන decision making dilemma එක. Agent මම agent ගාව තියෙන්නේ වෙන කෙනෙක්ගේ සල්ලි. ඒ agent එක operate කරනකොට ප්‍රශ්නයක් එනවා. මම මගේ interest එකට මේ සල්ලි ටික යොදනවද මම මගේ shareholder නැත්නම් ඕනගේ interest එකට මේ සල්ලි ටික යොදනවද කියලා. So you have a dilemma there to choose between the two decisions. So when you are making the choice between these two decisions, your interest would conflict. There would be a conflict in the interests. That is agency conflict. So it is said that agency conflict or this agency dilemma had turned into a more complex situation with the arrival of joint stock limited companies. මේක ගොඩක් complex situation එකක් වෙලා තියෙනවා මේ limited liability company එකක් බවට පත්වීමත් එක්ක. Why? Earlier it was you have the shareholder and you have the board of directors, or the investor and the board of directors. It was more or less very simple as meeting face to face. You all can sit on the same chair or sit on the same table and discuss the matters. Shareholders can meet the board of directors directly. But now the things have been more complex, or the contract between the principal and the agents had been complex. The reason is we are not anymore seeing that simple investor shareholder relationship. The reason is that what was the reason means now what even what you all know, what you are doing is we have a small company. We are not actually investing in that particular company directly. Why? What we do is we go for a financial advisor. Say I want to invest in a company, I go for a financial advisor, maybe a, a financial advisory firm, a brokering firm. So what they do is they invest my money in a mutual fund. ලොකුම fund එක තමයි invest කරන්නේ. It can be an equity fund, it can be the risk free bond T-bill, a fund like in a mutual fund, and that particular fund together invest in equities. That's what normally happens, especially in unit trust companies. Unit trust companies දැන් අපි ගොඩ වෙලාවට individual investors ලා ගිහිල්ලා company එකක් හොයාගෙන directly invest කරන්නේ නැහැ. What we do is either we go for a brokering firm, or what we do is we give our money to a financial advisor or an investment company. So what they do is they take our money, they invest that in a mutual fund, and that entire fund is invested in an equity. Things have been formulated into that much complex. So the complex එකක් තියෙනවා දැන් මේ investor or direct company එකකින් මේ relationship එක. ඉස්සර හිටියේ shareholder direct අය විතරයි. නමුත් then things have been that much complex. So when a mutual fund is invested in a particular company, can you spot your shareholder? අපි ඇත්තටම company දන්නේ කවුද මගේ shareholder කියලාවත් දන්නේ නැහැ. shareholder ජීවිතේ දැකලවත් නැහැ. shareholder දන්නේ නැහැ මගේ සල්ලි කොහෙද invest කරලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා. When you invest through a mutual fund, you might even not know where your monies are. Or the company also do not know what are your owners are. So things have turned into that much of a complexity. So because of this, monitoring this contract, monitoring this agency dilemma is very problematic. These things give rise to agency dilemma. This complexity may make complex structure agency problem එක වැඩි කරලා තියෙනවා. It has how do you call it? It has increased the agency dilemma because shareholder and directors are very far in that they cannot even meet, or they do not know each other. They do not know each other. So actually directors are having a problem, no? When you cannot understand who your shareholders are, then how can you fulfill the interest of the shareholder? You do not know who they are. You take the shareholders or the investors. In portfolio management, you have learned you have active investors and passive investors. Passive investors would be very long-term focused. Actives are very short-term focused. So all sort of investors are there. Shareholders are there. So what should the board do? Should the board accomplish the short-term goals or should the board accomplish the long-term goals of investors? That is problem. So because these problems, you will see a lot of agency problems in organizations. So that is why even almost all the regulators today are stressing more on corporate governance practices. මේ complexity එක හින්දායි අද මේ subject එකක් විදිහට මෙම code හදාගෙන අපි මෙච්චර මේක ගැන කතා කරන්නේ. So that is been highlighted in the last sentence also. Listed companies grew when their shareholders become more diverse. Separation between owners and directors magnified and power shifted toward the directors. So power shifted towards the directors. This is a good point. Tell me, what is the basis of power? First lesson we learned. What is the basis of power? Answers? I want the answer from 16420. 16420. Owners. Owners has the basis of power. Now there is a question that is been asked. Agency dilemmas between board of directors, shareholders and board of directors and executive management. Agency dilemma would be there. Now, what is agency dilemma? Agency dilemma is principal and the agent. Principal is the people who give you the money, who the owners. And agent is the one who is acting on behalf of them. So board of directors and management, we cannot say they have an agency. They will have conflicts, of course. What the board do will not match with the management. But board and management, you cannot categorize board as the principal, management as the agent. But shareholder is the principal or the owner. Board and management both are agents. That all board and management එක දෙගොල්ලම තමයි agent වෙන්නේ. Shareholder කියන්නේ ඕන කෙනෙක් විතරයි. So we are talking about the agency dilemma between shareholder and the management or board. Anyone who is acting on behalf of you all. That issue is what the corporate governance is trying to address. And now another thing that is being asked is directors are sometimes shareholders. So do they have agency issue? That is a solution to the agency issue. Now to avoid, to minimize the agency problem, to minimize the agency dilemma, today what the companies are doing is they have given the ownership right to its shares to their employees. You will see employee share option schemes. Employee share option schemes කියලා තියෙන්නේ employees ට අපි ownership එක දෙනවා. So then they are also owners. So in a way they are trying to address the agency problem. Agency dilemma එක අඩු කරන ක්‍රමයක් තමයි මේ directors අට employees අට voting right එක දීලා ඒගොල්ලන්ව shareholders ලා විදිහට පත් කරගෙන තියෙනවා. So you see, because of this complexity in organizations, today the power has been shifted. The basis of power is ownership. The power has shifted to the directors. Shareholder do not know who are the directors are. Director do not know who are the shareholders are. And even shareholders today there are diverse of shareholders, number of shareholders. So the power that you can exert is, if say for instance I invest in a company, so I do not have a lot of power. So that way the power has been shifted to the directors. Then ඇත්තටම power එක තියෙන director board එකට. ඒගොල්ලන්ට ඕන දේ තමයි කරන්නේ. මොකද diverse, internationally widespread, geographically widespread. shareholder කෙනෙක් ඇවිත්ලා question කිරීම ඒ monitor කරන එක ඒ direction එකේ අපිට ඕන දේ වෙනවද කියන එක බැලීම හරි අඩු වෙනුවෙන්. මොකද ඒක එහෙම අපි කතාවට කිව්වට ඒක හරි simple form එකකින් ඒක practically කරන්න බෑ because of the complexities. Now we say no, what the directors do is understand the expectation of the shareholders. They convert it into business terms as vision, mission, and formulate strategies and communicate it to the management to run the business. So that story is very simple and very clear cut. But of course, understand the aspiration of shareholders and converting and running the business is not as easy as we say because of these complexities that we see in the early limited liability companies. Early limited liability companies for the simple model, but that simplistic model is not more in no more operation now in nowadays. It has grown to a very more complex companies. So continuing, responses to agency dilemma. Demand for reporting and transparency. Now, because of these agency dilemma, in the sense the conflict of interest, because of the issues that we have between the shareholders and directors being geographically spread, මේ complexity එක shareholder director කියන දෙගොල්ලොන්ගේ මේ තියෙන පරතරය හින්දා ඒකට address කරන්න තමයි මෙන්න මේ දේවල් අපි කියන්නේ. Demand for reporting and transparency. We report through the annual reports and we report quarterly reports to the CSE website. Colombo, if we take Columbus Stock Exchange, so every company you have to report quarterly. Quarterly reports you have to give. So that reports are used not only the shareholders that is in Sri Lanka, but also many countries shareholders is being communicated. Requirements for accountability and audit. You have to have auditing reports, independent directors, separation of chairman and CEO, regulation code, corporate governance codes and principles. So to avoid this agency dilemma, these things have been taken as actions. So these are some of the responses. These responses have been there over time. මේ responses කියලා කියන්නේ මේ කාලයක් පුරාවට තිබිච්ච දේවල්. නමුත් මීට වඩා responses මීට වඩා දේවල් තියෙනවා. හොඳම දේ තමයි corporate governance codes. Codes වල best practices කියලා හැදිලා තියෙන්නේ ඔය agency dilemma කියන එක base කරගෙන ඒවට ඒකෙන් මිදෙන්න ඕන practices to overcome these issues. Moving forward, agency dilemma can occur whenever there is a separation. Do you agree with that? Agency dilemma, is it common only to the public limited company, or do you think it can be seen in other company forms anywhere? Can you give examples of such? So it is said anywhere when the governing body is separated from the owners or the members, you will see agency dilemma. Do you agree with this example? Can you give some example? Do you agree with this statement? And if so, can you give some examples where you will see agency dilemma other than public limited company? දැන් මේ කතා කරන්නේ shareholder director ගැනනේ. ඊට අමතරව තියෙන examples, if you can explain it more, would be great. Examples. So I'm getting some interesting examples. What else? University Senate and all academics. I would say the higher education ministry and all the other academics. Because ministry is, here is the owner or principal, we can say that is the ministry. And all of us are the agents. No? Then yes, we can have issues. Our interests might differ. Parliament and the community. Then here, who are the owners and who are the agents? Community is the owners. No, we appoint. No, Parliament people, they have to work on behalf of behalf of us. So they are our agents. So of course we have conflicts. Debt holders and shareholders, yes. Debt holder and shareholder, here debt holder is the owner or the principal. Shareholder is the agent. There is a conflict. Even in a hospital, for example, you will see agency dilemma. Why? You will see the government ministry and ministry people, the government ministry or the medical services, that ministerial part, they will have a set of aspirations, and the doctors will have another set of aspirations. Say for example, the ministry or the medical services would want to have say high level of bed occupancy. Hospital වල ඇඳවල් ලෙඩ ඇඳවල් full occupied කරලා තියන්නයි ඕන. ඒකෙන් අපිට පෙන්වන්න පුළුවන් අපේ මේගොල්ලෝගේ අපේ කවද hospital service එක හොඳයි කියලා කියන. එතකොට ඒක කරන්න ඩොක්ටර්ස්ලා නර්ස්ලා කරන්න පුළුවන් දේ තමයි මිනිස්සුන්ව ටිකට් කපන්න නැතුව ඔහෙ තියන් ඉන්න. To achieve that goal. That is a dilemma, no? If they will be faced with issues if the bed occupancy is not there as expected. So what they can do is, without letting them go, they can keep the beds occupied. Or if the ministry wants to have low bed occupancy to show that our health service is very effective in servicing people, then what they can do is, without a proper treatment, doctors can discharge them. So those are different forms of conflicts. So the point you to understand is, it doesn't have to be a public limited company. Anything, anywhere, if the government body is separated from the ownership, you will see lot of issues. You will see governance issues. Parent company and subsidiary company, yes. In agency situations, parties have asymmetric access to information. Why? Asymmetric access. That is why this agency situation rise. Asymmetric information. Now, who is running the business? The board. Then board have all sort of information which the shareholders do not have. Shareholders, what they do is they give the money, and board run the business with the management and provide profit and give the share. Profits අරගෙන dividends විදිහට shareholders ට දෙනවා. නමුත් company in and out information, how they made the profit, what were the difficulties, what were the strategies, everything that is known by the board of directors. If that is not properly communicated to the shareholders, then you will see problems. That is why the problems are. Not that all the 100% of information with 100% accuracy is being communicated to the shareholders. Shareholders are තියෙන 100% information 100% නිරවද්‍යතාවයකින් informed වෙන්නේ නැහැ. There's an asymmetry of information sharing access. So that is why agency situation rises. If you see an agency situation, root cause is because of information asymmetry. informations හරි විදිහට යන්නේ නැති ප්‍රශ්නේ. Any questions? So agency theory. Now we talked about agency dilemma. So what is this agency theory? Agency theory is what we talk about in corporate governance. Now agency dilemma is there. එතන corporate governance කියලා දෙයක් අපි identify කරගන්නේ නැහැ. මෙහෙම ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා. ඒ ප්‍රශ්නෙට කියන්නේ agency dilemma කියලා. So corporate governance identify that problem as a contract. Corporate governance look it as a contract between shareholders and the directors. Now all these corporate governance practices and behaviors are looked through agency dilemma. අපි මේ corporate governance practices and behaviors කියන ඒවා ඒ හැමදේම මේ දකින්නේ agency dilemma එක හරහා. So agency dilemma එක corporate governance වල theory එකක් විදිහට දකිනවා as a contract between shareholders and directors. In corporate governance, we see agency theory as a governance relationship that is a contract between shareholders and directors. So what is the governing issue is based on this dilemma is that principal contracts with the agent. What is the contract? I am providing you the money, you run the business on behalf of myself. So then there's the agency dilemma. What was the dilemma? Directors take advantage of shareholders. Directors are going to perceive their own interests than the interest of the shareholders. So that is the dilemma. So in governance, we see this as a relationship. We see this as a relationship between shareholders and agents. Governance relationship. So to avoid this dilemma, we formulate different practices as a agency theory. So this is the theory, the contract, governance relationship. Corporate governance see this as a contract. So that contract is further explained. A contract under which one or more persons engage another to act on their behalf, delegating decision-making authority. They are utility maximizers, act on their own interest and not for the best interest of the principal. So this is what the contract says. Contract gives a relationship form to agency dilemma. Agency theory gives the relationship form to the agency dilemma. It's a contract between one or more people that they have delegated the authority. So the point here is, now they are utility maximizers. If both are utility maximizers, why? Shareholder want to maximize their own interest. Agents wants to maximize their own interest. Why? Directors play with someone else's money. I am giving you the money to run my business. So I can't, being a director, it's unlikely that they would act very true to themselves. ඒගොල්ලෝ හරියටම සර්වසාධාරණව වැඩ කරයි කියලා අපිට හිතන්න බෑ. They are playing with someone else's money. So to maximize their own interest, they can take unnecessary risks. They can go for new business ventures, they can diversify the business, or even they can go for acquisitions, uh, or layoffs, many different hostile takeovers, many different unnecessary risks that maximize their own interest. ඒගොල්ලන්ට හිතනවා නම් මේ hostile takeover එක හින්දා අපේ short term profit එක වැඩි කරගන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි කියලා, then directors would go for that because they know they can get a good return. They can increase their perks. ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ salary එක promotion එකක් ගන්න management එකට ඒ වගේ decisions ගන්න පුළුවන්. They want to maximize their own interest. So agency theory focuses at the level of shareholders and boards as entities. What is meant here is, now in this agency theory, we have the shareholders here and we have the board here, and we see that it has a contract. මේ ඩයිලේමා එක contract එකක් විදිහට දකිනවා. agency theory එකෙන් කරන්නේ ඒකයි. මේ දෙගොල්ලෝ අතර contract එකක් තියෙනවායි කියලා. So we see shareholders, the whole set of shareholders as it is. Board of directors, the entire boards as entities. Shareholder කියන්නේ එක entity එකක්. Board එක කියන්නේ තව entity එකක්. කියලා සලකලා තමයි මේ theory එක හැදිලා තියෙන්නේ. Further explain, we are not talking about board characteristics here. මේ agency theory එකෙන් කියන්නේ board එක ඇතුලේ characteristic. ඒ කියන්නේ board එකේ culture එක මොකක්ද? board එකේ process එක මොකක්ද? board activities මොනවද? board එකේ ඇතුලේ ඉන්නේ කවුද? board එකේ individual base එක ගැන කිසිම දෙයක් කියන්නේ නැහැ. board එක as it is. ඒ කියන්නේ board of directors. We are not concentrating the individual members. Shareholders as a whole. We are not considering the individual shareholders. As entities, this theory is talking about. Shareholders all together, board of directors all together. So based on this agency theory, whatever the governance practices that you formulate are for all the shareholders and all the board members. මේ board member එක ඇතුලේ ඉන්න executive ද non-executive ද කියන කතාව අපි බලන්නේ නැහැ. shareholders like individual shareholders, the institutional shareholders, එහෙම individual base එකකින් බලන්නේ නැහැ. අපි මෙතනදී මේ theory එකකින් කතා කරන්නේ corporate governance කියන එක entity wise. Governance practices for all the shareholders and practices for all the board of directors as an entity. So criticisms of agency theory, too simplistic. So it's very simple. මෙහෙම ඇත්තටම මෙහෙම agency theory එක agency principle කියන දේනවා අපිට අඳුර ගන්න පුළුවන් නම් ඇත්තටම as simply as we say, then it's very easy to practice corporate governance, no good practices. So මේකට මේක තේරුම් ගන්න, මේ theory එක තේරුම් ගන්න ලොකු complex theories in intricacies ඕනෙ වෙන්නේ නැහැ. කිසිම අපිට any complex models, we do not want those things to understand this simple relationship. And agency theory takes the view on nature of humans. Humans means we say people are self-interested and not altruistic. Self-interest means we are concerned about ourselves only, and not altruistic mean we are not being more true to ourselves. We are not looking after the interest of others. We are not looking after the interest of others. We are looking after only ourselves. We are self-interested. And directors will act on their own interests, not the best interest of the shareholders. And essentially, we say directors cannot be trusted. Agency theory says don't trust the director. That's what it says, no? Agency dilemma, if always mention, if the ownership and the governing body is separated, there would be conflicts, there would be problems. What is the problem? If it is separated, directors will go on achieving their self-interest, not the interest of the shareholders. So meaning simply is do not trust the directors. That is what the agency theory says. People cannot be trusted. Don't give your money to someone else to play. They will not be honest to you. That is the simple meaning of this theory. People cannot be trusted. Meaning people are very rational. No? Now that is very rational to say, no, you are giving your money to me and you are expecting me to be look after you and forgetting about myself. මං ගැන අමතක කරලා වෙන කෙනෙක් ගැන හිතලා වැඩ කරන්නයි කියලා කියනවා. That is not something rational. The people, rational behavior of people are, human beings are, we are always trying to maximize our own interest. We are always trying to act for the best interest of ourselves, not for someone else's. We are very opportunistic and self-interested parties. So that's agency theory highlights the true nature of humans. However, the legal concept of the corporation takes the opposite way. The legal concept of the corporation takes the opposite. Companies, no, that's not the answer. Directors are stewards, that's the answer. The legal concept is directors, they say, now agency theory says people cannot be trusted. But the legal concept says you can trust the directors. Directors are stewards. Directors are there to act on behalf of you. That is the legal concept, which is the opposite of agency theory. Agency theory says directors are not there to work on behalf of you. Director කියන්නේ ඔයාගේ ඕන විදිහට වැඩ කරනවා කියන කියන්නේ නැහැ. නමුත් legal concept එකෙන් කියනවා directors ලා ඉන්නේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ වෙනුවෙන් වැඩ කරන්න. ඒගොල්ලෝ stewards. Directors are there to act. That's what is mean by the legal concept. So three fundamental problems of agency theory. Agency cost. So it is a cost, isn't it? When the interest of different parties conflict, it's a cost. Because you might not be taking the decisions for the best interest, the best decision. You might not be taking the best decision. Say for example, you will make certain decisions that is for the best interest of you, but ultimately it can be a cost to the company. Agency is a cost, the agency cost. The problem of allocating residual control rights, that is another problem. The problem is problem of allocating residual control rights. What's the residual control? Now, further highlighting the point of agency costs, the costs may be, monitoring costs. So I think you have learned in financial management. Monitoring cost is an agency cost. Because of these conflicts, you will have external audit committees, internal audit committees, nomination committees. So all these are monitoring costs. All these are monitoring monitoring the company's activities. But still they are costs, agency cost. And another cost is lost opportunities. As I said, now directors are going to achieve their self-interest, and so for that they might be foregoing best good projects, long-term good projects. They might be rejecting, and they might be accepting the short-term good making profit making projects, but long term these projects would be bad. But since the short term profits are there, and since they can get good return, they might go for that. So you are losing the opportunities of good opportunities that would be good to the company long term wise. හොඳ decision සමහරක් වෙලාවට අපි මගහරින්න පුළුවන් short term වාසි ගැන හිතලා. So those are also lost opportunities, are also costs. Monitoring is a cost. Lost opportunity is a cost. These are agency costs. Allocating residual control rights means now the basis of power is with the shareholders, and residual controlling right you are giving to the directors. So allocating that residual right is problem. How much of right that you are giving? How, to what extent you are giving the decision making power? That is a problem. Director කොච්චර power එකක් දෙනවද, residual right එක දෙනවද කියන එක ප්‍රශ්නයක්. මොන decisions මොන වගේ decisions ගන්නද අපි director power එක දෙන්නේ? That is a problem. Then reduction in management discretion. That is now, since the managements are agents, another problem is their the decision making power in a way that they want is limited. Management එකට කැමති විදිහට decision ගන්නයි කියන එක අඩු වෙලා තියෙනවා. Sometimes it is good, sometimes it is bad. Now management එකට decision ගැනීමේ freedom එක තියෙනවා. We should give the freedom for the management to take the decision because they are running the business. But that freedom is a little bit limited because of this agency problem. So ඒගොල්ලන්ට accountability එකක් තියෙනවානේ. They are accountable to the shareholders. Sometimes even though it's a good decision, even though it's good for the company, shareholders might not give their vote for that. Management එක සමහරක් වෙලාවට හොඳ business opportunity එකක් අරගෙන long term wise company ට හොඳයි කියලා කිව්වත් shareholders ලා එකට invest කරන්න අකමැති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So agency theory identified that problem as well. Management discretion, reduction in management discretion. The solutions may be corporate transparency, that you know, auditing and providing information, annual reports, transparency, independent auditors, external auditors and internal auditors. Then sanctions, if you are not complying, if the reports are not good, if you have done frauds, you would be have to pay for that. Sanctions will be there. Sanctions in the legislative framework. Those things you can actually think. There are many possible solutions. Some of it that I have put, but you can think and propose many solutions. These are not the only problems, and these are not the only solutions that can be proposed. Anything that avoid, anything that minimize the agency dilemma can be proposed. So there are a good lot of research that is being done. Whether does good corporate governance produce better corporate performance? So most of the findings are stock investors are ready to pay a premium price for the well-governed businesses. If the company is having good governance practices, they say their share price is trading at a premium. Investors are ready to pay a good amount of money to such companies. And their performance wise, like in the sense share price, the return that they have made, when you have good governance practices, it is likely, but research they have find that's a limited correlation. But these are, research that been done in different countries. So in Sri Lanka, if you take a sample and do and research whether good corporate governance have good corporate performance, you can have a good correlation, a positive correlation or negative correlation, but that's very subjective, country wise. But these are, areas of research that is being done. However, it's well known that when you have good governance practices, your stocks would be traded at a premium because of the reduced risk. Risk is perceived to be very less when you have good governance practices. So this is the, simply said, the most effective governance institution depends on context and firm specific circumstances. අපිට මේ කෝඩ් එකක් ශ්‍රී ලංකන් කෝඩ් එක ප්‍රැක්ටිස් කර පමණින් කියන්න බෑ මේක හරිම හොඳ කම්පැනි එකක් මේක ඉෆෙක්ටිව් කම්පැනි එකක් කියන එක. It depends. It's just a guide. It's just the, governance code is just the basic requirements. But it can depend from company circumstances, the timing of the company, it depends. Because these are practices. Any questions?